Hello everyone. This is a quick intro to my oopsie. The beginning few minutes of the video here, I accidentally pushed the camera shutter button instead of the video record button. So the whole intro, Megan and I thought we were talking and we weren't. It didn't record. So this is a quick introduction to this video. I'm Heather from Heather Travels. Megan was sitting in front of me when I was recording this video on the rocking chair. But she got sick on this trip to New Orleans and she has viral laryngitis. We went to the doctor yesterday and she has no voice. So you will hear her whispering a bit in this video. But this, if you haven't already watched it, check out the first video, the introduction to this new playlist that I'm doing on Megan's music trip to New Orleans. This is a biannual trip that our high school takes to a city somewhere in the eastern half of the United States every other year. And about, I don't know if it made the half of the video that did record, it's about 350 to 400 people. They were on 7 coach buses. They went to New Orleans, and this video is all about that. So I don't remember what I actually said in the part that I thought was recording but didn't record. So sorry about that, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the video. Thanks, guys. Sorry about that, everyone. Okay, so I don't know where I left off. Technical problems. They took 7 coach buses and on this particular trip, and so I think there was average about 50 some people per bus. So I figured out at one point, based on how many people were assigned to each hotel room, that they had like 100 hotel rooms in the hotel, that there were between 350 and 400 people on this trip. So most of them were high school students in 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. And then there was 1 chaperone for every 4 people, right, Megan?
8 people.
8 people? 1 chaperone for every 8 people. Oh, so they were responsible for 2 rooms of people in the hotel? Ah, I did not realize that. Okay, so there was 1 chaperone for every 8 students. And then there were also their music teachers, which I don't think they're actually considered chaperones, are they? They're like, they are? Or they're like separate? I mean, they're chaperones, but they're not assigned to a specific group of kids. Yeah, okay. So anyway, they went to school that day. It was a Wednesday. They went to school all day. They had a little meeting. They loaded all their stuff into the bus. Oh, I should mention, this is choir, orchestra, and band. Megan's in choir, so she didn't have to bring anything really. She brought her music, which fit in her backpack. Did you take that out, by the way, and put it back in your other backpack? Your music? Is it still in the backpack that you put away in the closet? Where is it?
It's in my homework folder on the floor.
Oh, okay. So anyway, can you hear Megan's voice? Anyway, so she didn't really have to carry anything, but obviously the band and orchestra students have instruments. This is how we do that. They used to have a semi, but was I wrong? Wasn't this time it just like a trailer? What happened to the semi? We used to have a big semi. And I don't know what happened to it. But anyway, they had a big trailer that somebody pulled behind a pickup truck, wasn't it? Yeah, with all the instruments in it. I wonder what happened to the semi. Anyway, and kind of what they do is they send the instruments on ahead, I think is what the deal is. Although this time it seemed like they got back at the same time as you. So maybe they drove together with the buses? I'm not really sure. Anyway, and I think I heard at some point there was a certain couple that was always the same people that drove the truck with the instruments for them, but and like they would take turns driving or whatever, but I'm not sure. Anyway, so they left after school on these 7 buses. Megan was on bus number 7, which apparently was the unlucky bus. But anyway, and they basically stayed together and they drove through the night and they made periodic stops, 2 rest areas. Was it more than that? More than that. Quite a few rest areas. 1 or 2 stops to change drivers, which we're mystified by. We don't know how exactly they do that and how the drivers get back home again. We don't know. If they pick them back up on the way back, we don't know. And then they had to stop, obviously, for gas. How do they do that? Do they all have to stop and gas up at once? She doesn't know. Okay, so anyway, they would stop for gas, bathroom breaks. They only stopped for 1 meal break on the way down, Or what, did that first time when you ate your box lunches, were you at a rest area when you did that, or did you eat them on the bus?
Well, we got them at the rest area, but ate them on the
Oh,
bus.
okay. So they passed out the boxed dinners that they had under the bus that they must have brought from school, that the school must have prepared for them. And that was their supper Wednesday night. And then they ate it on the bus. So they passed it out at the rest area and then they ate it on the bus on the road. They got to stop for one big meal, and this was the first misadventure in travel. I'm not making a separate video, but anyway, check out my misadventures in travel playlist. I'll put a link right here. They stopped in Jackson, Mississippi, right? Half the group went to IHOP, which Megan was very excited about because she loves IHOP, and she got crepes. And half the group went to Cracker Barrel. Okay, we like both places. Cracker Barrel group had no problem at all. IHOP group, now keep in mind, the teachers called these restaurants ahead of time, right?
Days ahead.
Days ahead. And
And
warned.
and the IHOP said, yeah, just bring everybody.
Oh, the IHOP said they could have brought everybody. Okay. Called them days ahead of time and warned them. These 7 buses full of people are coming to your restaurant. But it wasn't 7 buses. I mean, like 4 went to one and 3 went to the other. Okay. Was the IHOP ready? Oh, no. The IHOP was woefully understaffed, correct? Not only were they woefully understaffed, but one of the waitresses took a whole bunch of people's order, didn't put them into the computer, and then quit and left. Okay? So all these people are sitting here like, where's my food? Megan was not in her section, right? You had a different server? No.
He was
Megan,
very nice.
she had a different server. She said he was very nice. She actually messaged me worried that she didn't tip him enough. She tipped him like 25%. So she tipped him plenty. But anyway, she said she wanted to get like some kind of special hot chocolate or something, but they decided not to because the poor IHOP staff, minus quitter waitress, were so stressed and drawn so thin by this huge group showing up. Not to mention, I'm sure there were other customers in the restaurant too, weren't there, Meg? Oh, yes. Lots. So they were very busy. So they were stuck there. The Cracker Barrel group had their brunch, got back on the road, and left them behind. And the poor half of the group that was at the IHOP was there for, I think it was 3.5 hours. 3.5 hours. Okay? And part of the problem, should I tell them that part? One of the groups of girls from one of the buses didn't pay. And so they wasted a whole bunch of time. I mean, I don't know. These girls have never been to a restaurant before. No, you don't get the food for, they thought it was included. I don't know. Well, I can see actually maybe how they would think that because a lot of the places you went, the food was included. But still, ask? I don't know. But anyway, they got back on the bus and didn't pay for their meal. So they had to track them down and get them to pay for their food. So that was just a big fiasco. So anyway, she tells me we're just finally leaving Jackson now. And it was still a 3-hour drive to Mardi Gras World in New Orleans, which was where they were supposed to go on Thursday afternoon. And I think they had 20 minutes to get there. 20 minutes to go 3 hours away. So that's not going to work. So anyway, the bummer part of this was they had this whole tour and a meal, and they got to make masks at Mardi Gras World, which the people who had had brunch at Cracker Barrel did get to do. The other half of the people, including the group Megan was in, did not get to do that. They did get to do a quick walkthrough, right? Quick walkthrough through Mardi Gras World, but didn't get the extensive tour. And they did get to eat their food there, right? Sort of. But they did not get to make the masks. So that was kind of a bummer. And then that night, they were just like in the evening at the hotel. But Megan and her chaperone and some other people walked to the mall thing, the Riverfront Marketplace. Is that what it's called? Something like that. And you bought nothing, right? No, she bought nothing. She tried to find a pillow and a blanket because she did not take... She took an inflatable travel pillow. We have determined that inflatable travel pillows are crap. Are not worth anything, and we actually threw that travel pillow away because it was probably contaminated with her sickness anyway. And so we want to get her one of those turtle pillows. Have you seen those? Have you seen the ads for turtle pillows? It's like turtle, but with no vowels in it. Those look kind of cool. And they're small. Fold up, put them in your suitcase. Anyway, so she was very cold on the bus, both down and back, because she did not have a blanket. She didn't want to mess with it. She's regretting that decision now because she was freezing. Okay, so that was into Thursday. Friday, they split in half, which I talked about in the other video. Her group on Friday did the French Quarter walking tour and the cemetery, right, Meg? Did you start in the cemetery? They started in the cemetery, and then they did a walking tour of the old what's the name of that cemetery?
St. Louis
something cemetery. Very famous.
I think it's St. Louis 2 because they said St. Louis 1 was the one deeper in the sea.
Oh, okay. St. Louis 2. And then they had a walking tour of the French Quarter. She enjoyed that very much. And we're going to do a video on that later, on just that. And then, where'd you have lunch that day? Before you went to the swamp tour. Did you have lunch?
I think so. Did we?
Oh, yeah, the coterie.
Oh, yeah.
Place or whatever. And you had beignets. And she'll be doing a restaurant video later when she gets her voice back, and she'll talk about that. And then they went on the bus to the swamp tour, which I realized when I looked at the map was actually about 45 minutes drive away. And she really loved the swamp tour. So they went in a boat and they did the swamp tour. And again, we'll do another video just on that later. I'll give you all the information about it and everything. Then in the evening, that night they had, and then they had a crawfish boil. And then what'd you do that evening? Oh, that was your choice night. That was their choice night. And some of the kids went to Preservation Hall. Some of the kids went to something else. Megan's group went on a ghost tour. She did not like the ghost tour. We don't have any pictures from the ghost tour. So we're just going to kind of tell you about that quick because we're not going to do a video on that. So the ghost tour, Meg, was a walking tour. How many people were you grouped up with?
A lot.
A lot.
They got separated a couple
times. Was it in the French Quarter? It was in the French Quarter again. And she said it was quite scary and totally skippable. Right? Is that an accurate description? She didn't care for it. So.
And violent.
Very violent. So not child-friendly at all?
Not at all.
Not at all child-friendly. So if you're going to New Orleans with your kids, don't take them on the ghost tour. She said it was lots of stuff about murder and cannibalism and was that a Creole thing? Yeah, anyway. Okay. So that's what they did on Friday. Saturday.
It's like what they did in that movie, which is fried green tomatoes.
Oh yeah.
If
if you haven't seen the movie Fried Green Tomatoes, watch that movie and you'll see what she's talking about. Okay.
He didn't actually end up eating her, but still.
Okay. Then on Saturday, she was having a good day. She ended up starting to not feel well on Saturday. And so about halfway through the day is when she started to not feel well. So that was kind of a bummer. But in the morning, they walked because I actually messaged her and said, "Are you sure you're taking the bus? Because it's really close and you could walk there." And then she messaged me back and goes, "We are walking." They walked from their hotel to the World War II Museum. This is the National World War II Museum in New Orleans, which my son Andrew and my dad went to exactly 10 years earlier. They were there in February 2009. It came up on my Facebook memories. And Andrew said that was one of the best museums he's ever been to. And in my last New Orleans video, the introduction to this series, Megan talked about how the orchestra teacher, when the teachers went down there last summer to scope it out, isn't a museum person, but they couldn't get her out of there because she thought it was so good. Megan also enjoyed it very much, and we will do a video about the World War II Museum coming up. Then they had box lunches, I think, again on the bus on the way, didn't you? Yep. Box lunches again on the bus on the way. Don't know where they got those from. Or did you eat at the World War II Museum? No, you had lunches on the way. Okay. And then they went to Oak Alley.
The World War II Museum prepared them.
Oh, the World War II Museum prepared the lunches for you and you took them with you. Okay. Then they went to Oak Alley, which is a old-fashioned Southern plantation, and that's about an hour away in the other direction. The swamp tour was kind of east-northeast of the downtown area. I looked on the map, Oak Alley is kind of straight west, basically, about an hour drive. And then we'll be doing a video on Oak Alley, and she'll tell you a little bit more about that, and we'll show you some pictures that's coming up too. And then that evening, on the way back from Oak Alley toward the west side of New Orleans, they stopped and got McDonald's. And then they went to see Dreamgirls at the Jefferson Center for Performing Arts. Yeah, the Jefferson Center for Performing Arts. She was kind of, this happens to us a lot, kind of iffy for the first half of the show. Loved the second half, okay? That happens to us a lot where at intermission, we're almost sitting there going like, should we leave? This isn't like what I was expecting. No, let's stay and find out what happens. And then the second half is awesome. So if you're ever at a show and you're thinking that at intermission, just stay, because usually it turns out to be really good. And then super cool, funny thing. Megan is sitting in the audience before the show begins, and she has the program in front of her, and she sees a name that's familiar to her. And she messaged me and goes, Mom, was this who'd you think it was? You thought it was somebody from your theater camp. She had theater in her head. Well, it makes sense because she's at a theater. She's like, was this one of my counselors at my theater camp? And I'm like, no, that's Zach. He was our technical director for at our local theater that we're in. And back in the fall of 2017, when Megan and I were both in the play, The Boxcar Children, Megan had the role of Jessie, the big sister, and I was all the adult women, basically, except for the social worker. I wasn't her, but I was everybody else. He was our technical director on that show. He was only with our theater like a year, maybe, about that, maybe a year. And then he got this job at this Performing Arts Center in New Orleans, and he's been there ever since. And he was there. And so I messaged him, and then he messaged me back. He actually sent me a selfie from backstage, which I posted on the group page. And then he came out, and he and Megan got to see each other just very briefly, because he had offered to take Megan, one of her friends, backstage after the show, which would have been really cool. But the show was much longer, I think, than they were expecting, wasn't it? Yeah, the show was quite long. And I want to say it was 11:30 by the time they got out of there. And they still had to get back to the hotel. She said it was
we got home at 11.
You got home back to the hotel at 11. And that basically was their curfew. So by the time they got ready for bed and stuff, it was almost midnight. So they were kind of rushing them out of the theater. I mean, did you just get to say hi quick and that was it? Did he come find you, or?
He was just standing out in the lobby.
Watching for you? Okay. Well, that was cool. So anyway, that was kind of a funny thing with a connection between Wisconsin and Megan felt kind of special because she knew somebody at the theater where they went to the show. So that was kind of cool. And then on Sunday, they spent the whole day at Loyola University, and they got to this was the performance or educational component of the trip. They got to do workshops and clinics by their music ensembles, so like the show choir, the band, the bands by grade, the different choirs, the different orchestras, that kind of thing. So she went to, I think you went to 2 or 3 workshops, and then your clinic for your choir, and then they got a tour of the university. She liked that very much. She thought the university was lovely. She was messaging me, kind of asking me some questions about it. And then that night, they went and rode the riverboat Natchez on the Mississippi River, which I have ridden twice. I think both the last 2 times I was in New Orleans, and still going. It's a paddle wheel boat on the Mississippi, and we'll do a video about that too. And then after they got off the Natchez riverboat, they got on their buses and they drove home. And so they left like 9 o'clock at night and got home very late. There was actually a medical emergency on Megan's bus, not her, but someone she knew, who was sitting very close to her, had a medical emergency on the bus, and they actually had to stop very close to 15 minutes from home and wait for an ambulance to come and get her. And she's okay, just so you know, she's fine. But and they were delayed Why else were you delayed? You were already behind schedule, though, before that happened. Just slow or stops?
Yes.
Yeah, maybe their stops took too long or something. They only stopped...
Well, they really underestimated the amount of people and what it was going to have to take time for on,
Like for the bathroom breaks and stuff?
yeah, because they're like, hey, this bathroom break, we're not going to be here for more than half an hour. But everybody needed to change and brush their teeth.
Yeah, people need to change and brush their teeth, she's saying, and when you got 400 people, that just takes, you just can't do it in that amount of time. So, no, sorry, that's when they stopped at McDonald's. When you stopped at the places the night before, there was like a choice between like Subway and like 3 other places, wasn't there? But she didn't actually eat anything except bread on Saturday night because she wasn't feeling well. But she got McDonald's on the way back, right? Did you eat anything then? Yeah.
I ate pancakes.
She ate pancakes and
a biscuit.
yeah. So, and then, so they were supposed to get back to the school about 6:30 on the Monday night. And they did not get back till her bus. The other buses got back about 7:30, 7:15. Her bus didn't get back for like another half hour because of having to stop for that person who had the emergency. So she was very tired when she got off the bus because she did not really sleep on the bus at all. And you slept okay in the hotel, right? But they didn't get enough sleep. The one thing I would say about these trips, and I remember that from when Andrew went too, they don't schedule enough time for them to sleep. And I think that they probably kind of do that on purpose because they don't want all these teenagers to have a whole big chunk of unstructured time where they could get in trouble maybe. But they do still need to sleep too, more than 6 hours. So that was one thing that I kind of thought. And the other thing I kind of feel, and the music teacher at my son's elementary school did tell me, she says, well, you know, Heather, they have to kind of work with when the people that they're going to see can do the thing, which I understand. But on all 3 of these trips, the one that Megan just went on and the 2 that Andrew went on, their performance or educational day was at the end. And I feel like that's backwards. I feel like they should do that first and then do all the fun stuff in the city where they're visiting. But they don't. I don't know if that's always true. Maybe in some of the past trips that hasn't been true. I don't know if that was true when they went to Nashville last time because I didn't have a kid go on that trip. But anyway, that is the overview of Megan's trip to New Orleans. And there will be more videos about this with images and commentary by Megan when she gets her voice back coming up in the coming weeks. So thank you guys again for joining us today. I'm Heather. This is Megan. Safe travels.
We can make a wildfire get away.